So in terms of that exemption, it's often in the setting of an acute medical illness. So if someone has an acute major medical illness and is unwell, they may also have a temporary exemption to their vaccination at that time point. It's allowed giving them time to recover from that event and then having that one-on-one discussion. So I think it's very much back to that individual and their physician discussion. That may be their primary care general practitioner or their specialist that's involved in managing their underlying medical condition. But I think it's best that those discussions happen at that individual level, and that guidance is really just directing clinicians to allow them to have that discussion. Because someone may have recovered from that illness, they may want to reconsider vaccination within that window, and they need to have that discussion depending on.
Okay, so I totally agree with you that the discussion. Sorry, thank you. I totally agree with you that discussion should be with the doctor, and hence my point. Why is it that ATAGI are defining those exemptions? And they're very narrow, and that's the point. They may have a reaction, and it may be a wide range. Who knows what the adverse event may be? But many of these adverse events don't fall within the categories defined by ATAGI. So as you've just said, they should talk to their doctor, which I totally agree with, and it should be the right of the individual with, in consultation with their doctor. So why is ATAGI overriding that? Now, you may not be yourself overriding it, but employers and state governments are using those exemptions set by ATAGI to justify why they do what they do.
So in terms of the interpretation, that really needs to go to the groups that are doing that. But again, the individual discussion is very much around what's occurred with that individual, what's happened in terms of that reaction, and then the discussion around the reactions as it occurred. You can give another temporary exemption for that individual if indicated. And in terms of the conditions that are assigned to, is very much looking at the reports that's coming from the TGA. What are the adverse events recognised, with the vaccine, and which was the window for those exemptions to continue. So ATAGI is constantly reviewing the evidence base around that and providing advice on the basis of that evidence as it emerges and changes.
Okay, thank you. So if someone has a reaction, day one, what's to say they won't have it the same react? They may recover, whether it takes 2 weeks or 3 months. What's to say they won't have the same reaction in 12 months' time?
So that again is back to that individual discussion. So again, using my hat, I see patients with reactions in clinic, and some of them may have had a query allergic reaction. So there may be concern that they had an immediate reaction to a vaccine. Doesn't necessarily the vaccine has definitely triggered it, and it may be that it's okay to reconsider maybe an alternate platform, vaccine. We have multiple vaccines now being made in different ways. So it may be that a different type of vaccine may be applicable to that individual. So it's really coming back to that individual discussion. Reaction may have occurred on day one, but there may be an alternative that could be considered in that 4 to 6 month interval for that individual to still be protected, which is the aim of the immunisation recommendation, is to protect individuals from severe disease.
And that's the thing, but the alternative may be that it's not in their best interest to take another vaccine at all, and you're not giving them that option.
The advice is really around the medical exemption. In terms of having other vaccines, we're not forcing or having that pushed onto individuals through the advice. We're very much just giving guidance for clinicians around those exemptions. So I really have to come back to that. And the problem,
and thank you, but the problem with that is doctors rely on that guidance and they use that as an excuse. And I'll just quote one person that contacted me, a constituent, who said that she got a 4-month exemption, and when she went back for another exemption, the doctor wouldn't give it to her. He said, "I'll only give you one exemption." So she was then faced with this problem of having to go back into anaphylactic shock on the second shot. Now we just can't have this sort of cruel and unnecessary measures coming from our own governments.
I can't believe a doctor would not.
An
anaphylactic reaction the first time.
I have been told numerous times, Professor Murphy, that people have had anaphylactic shocks, and they have been told by their doctors to go then to the doctors and get their second shot in emergency, so that they're already there in the hospital.
Senator Rennick, yeah. So look, the accusations or the anecdotal evidence that's being provided here by you, Senator Rennick, is very serious. So I think it makes it very difficult for the officials to be able to respond when you're just saying this is something that somebody's told you. If you actually have evidence that you can provide where that you can actually, and obviously we can't do it in session because we don't want to name names, but I mean if you are able to provide the names and the details of the people who have provided you with this information and the name of the doctor who's allegedly done what you're saying, then I think they're very serious and they should be followed up. But, prosecuting it here when we're just talking about, somebody said
I'm
something
using
makes
it as an example, Minister.
No, but the problem is, Senator Rennick, I mean, the example that you're using is very, very serious. To suggest that a doctor would actually put somebody knowingly at this kind of risk that you're saying it is something that needs to...
Okay, that's fine.
So if you could provide us with the names and the
about that.
doctors and the
Yep.
situations to allow the officials to be able to look at it, then I think that would be
Senator
fair.
Minister
Yeah.
Ruston, I'm more than happy to do
Thank
that.
you.
I will get that data, no problems.
Authorised G. Rennick, LNP Chermside.